Hello and welcome to the October 23rd edition of the Contributor Experience Biweekly American meeting. Please be advised that this meeting is under the Code of Conduct of the Kubernetes project, which in short means be nice and excellent to your fellow attendees and speakers in the meeting. Anyone that wants to introduce themselves, we do this on a regular basis, so you also feel free to give a short introduction if you already have given one. I can start. Hi, I'm Mario. I am part of SIG ContribEx, and I'm currently the tech lead for the COM sub-project, and I'm also involved in budgeting for SIG Infra. That's a new thing.
Nice. That sounds like it.
Anyone else want to introduce themselves?
Yeah, I can say hi since I haven't been to this meeting in a while. Hi everyone, I'm Natalie Vlatko. I am the co-chair of SIG Docs, and I have been involved in the Kubernetes Contributor Summit in various different roles for a long time as well. And on that specific topic, I'm joining today to chat about some fun new things happening for next year.
All good.
All right. Great.
So I'm Ray Lahano. I'm also a co-chair of SIG Docs. I'm also a sub-project lead for SIG Security as well. So it's been a while since I've joined this meeting as well.
And I'm Chris Short, pronouns he, him, and I'm the SIG ContribEx Contributor Comms co-lead.
I could go next. Hello, everyone. My name is Arvind. I'm mainly part of SIG ContribEx, helping with blogging and social media side of things there. And currently, I'm acting as comms shadow for KCSNA. My pronouns are he, him.
All right. Thanks, Josh, for sharing the meeting again. And I'm looking for the chat where I want to share the meeting as well. There. Okay. Give me a second. I'm not good at multitasking.
That means you're human, though. Kind of a good thing.
All right. So yeah, let's shortly discuss the current status of the Contributor Summit for 2024 North America. It's ongoing. We are still looking for people to fill in some volunteer slots. There's still plenty of room. And the planning is ongoing. Everything else looks fine. We are currently, I think, around at 140 registrations, which is also not too bad, given that we are 3 weeks out.
It's actually about average for 3 weeks out, apparently.
Yeah. I was also shocked that this is the number, but I think Ray checked it.
Yep, I did. We should get a spike a few weeks before, or pretty soon.
Yeah, and the big topic is basically, and I had hoped that some more people would join, the planning for the Contributor Summit, or as part of the Maintainer Summit for London. That's also the reason why Natalie also joined. Thanks again for doing this. As an information, Karina, Natalie, and me are the 3 chairs for Maintainer Summit, so the overall chairs. And we had some plannings meetings started, and we wanted to discuss basically what would be a good way for the Kubernetes project to move forward in planning, so that we also can start basically involve people for the track chair, because the Kubernetes project as only project is getting a whole track at the Maintainer Summit. Natalie, do you want to add something?
Yeah, so maybe to kind of, for folks who maybe don't know the general overview of the Maintainer Summit, we can quickly discuss that. So firstly, a lot of discussions happened this year and late last year from the CNCF side about the need to basically listen to folks who want to make sure that we are having a summit that is not clashing with co-located events, because often people are going to those same things, and that's been a problem in the past. But that this clash is often happening because budget-wise, there doesn't seem to be enough money floating around to get space for an extra day. And so the idea of sponsorships were kind of floated. And with that idea, the idea of getting more projects involved in having their maintainers come together for a specific day, like we do in the Kubernetes project, but across the CNCF ecosystem, was brought up as a way to not only make sure that getting a separate day and a lot more content and information could happen, but also as another good way to make sure that sponsors are interested, because there's an array of different projects involved. So with that, the Maintainer Summit was sort of born. It is being piloted at KubeCon India this year, at the end of this year. And so we do plan to get a bit of information from the program chairs and folks involved at KubeCon India. Divya Mohan, another Docs co-chair, actually. She's a program chair for KubeCon India, and she and I are already chatting. But basically, what we're trying to do is still make sure that the Kubernetes Contributor Summit has its space and its room to continue being what it is, but also making room for other maintainers of other projects to come in and hopefully start what can be a growing event that could possibly even be more than a day, maybe in determine on how much kind of content and information kind of comes out of that. In our planning meeting yesterday, for example, Mario, Karina, Angel, and myself already figured out that, while there might be certain tracks, people want to go to different things. This might end up being something that kind of becomes a bigger event because of the amount of projects involved. Kubernetes is a big project, but the open telemetry community is also quite large. So bringing those maintainers together and contributors together is going to be cool. What we will want to do is handhold a bit in terms of the other projects of how to actually run and do a summit. But on the Kubernetes side, we usually do have a lot more people who either know how to do it or put their hand up to help out and volunteer for a lot of the planning activities. And so it is our intention to make sure that there is still a small team on the Kubernetes side generally helping to run the summit, but that it is very likely that myself, Mario, and Karina will be a bit more involved on the other project side to make sure that their tracks and information and general kind of running happens well. And then with that, what I think that generally means is that we want to make sure that we're answering questions from the community before we start getting interest from folks who want to be involved, so that we can make sure that we're putting out the right information so that we can get as many participants who want to actually be involved in running this as possible.
Yes, and to add to this, thanks for first and foremost. To add to this, we are on a pretty tight timeline, which means that the CFP will open rather sooner than later. Yes, Josh?
Oh, I have a whole list of questions. Finish what you're saying.
Okay. So basically, the CFP will rather start sooner than later. We are currently looking at multiple waves of CFP ending dates, so that people actually can join later the CFP as well. However, a new thing is that you will get a KubeCon ticket if you are a speaker selected for the Maintainer Summit. So you can. There will also be maintainer sponsorship that you can apply for, and from our side, and now I'm basically taking off my the chair hat and taking on the head of someone from ContribEx. My idea would be that we still have a KCS or Maintainer Summit team in place, because there need to be like a content team that reviews the track for the Kubernetes track as well, and also gives feedback for unconference sessions. And yeah, so we need some people that are basically committed to do this. The only question is if we want to do it in the way how it has been done before, like old content shadows can basically say they want to become a content lead for the upcoming summit, and then can collect shadows to review this, or if we want to have a bigger involvement from other folks there. So like that chairs are basically creating the content team or putting people into the content team. This would be a question that we would need to answer. And the other topic is that, and now my brain has a lag. 2 seconds ago, I knew what I wanted to say. Yes, sponsorship for non-org members. So there will be the ability that non-org members can be sponsored to attend the event as well. And what we agreed on is that everyone who is listed as a maintainer plus TOC and tech leads are able to sponsor folks. So basically, everyone that is from the Kubernetes project inside of the maintainer CSV file in the CNCF GitHub repo can basically sponsor people to the event.
Yeah. The one last thing I'll just quickly add, and then Josh would love to answer all of your questions, is that the tight timeline in terms of, or the very early and tight timeline in terms of the CFP, or the first round of CFPs, we've kind of negotiated having several rounds because folks may miss a deadline that is so early, is that because a KubeCon ticket is now on the table if you're accepted as a Maintainer Summit speaker, that deadline has been brought forward so that you can apply for travel scholarship and travel funding in case your company or won't cover, or if you're a student. And so that's why that first round of deadlines is going to be in place so that scholarships for travel can be awarded and applied for.
Josh.
Okay, ready for difficult questions.
Yes.
So number one, historically, the Kubernetes Contributor Summit has been run with a mostly volunteer staff. With only one person from CNCF events assigned in advance and 2, maybe 3 assigned the day of. The new Maintainer Summit formulation is going to require a lot more professional staffing by the CNCF, because as current ops lead, I will tell you, we can barely recruit enough volunteers for the KCS itself. There's no way we're recruiting volunteers for the Maintainer Summit. We just can't do it.
So, a great point. And this is already something that has come up in a couple of our early planning meetings. Yeah. We haven't got the exact number of folks who are either on board to help currently or will be helping on the day, but we already know that both Lindsay Gandreau and Ashley's name, who I'm forgetting at the moment, but the two of them are assigned to actually help us out, not only with planning, but also a lot of the registration work that's already coming on. So we already have double the amount of folks who would usually be assigned to KCS currently assigned to the Maintainer Summit, but we are still finding out who can, given that we're still actually finalizing the dates of things to come in terms of deadlines for CFP and information like that. So great point, and it's something that we've partially already brought up and worked on already, but we will bring it up again.
Yeah, I just don't see this working without assigned paid staff, basically. We can't reasonably recruit and coordinate volunteers across a bunch of different projects.
Totally.
So basically, what also was said is that there will be room staff. So there you will have dedicated people from the CNCF assigned to each of the rooms. We are currently trying to figure out how we do it with unconference sessions, especially to get access to meeting notes, guidelines for moderation stuff. So basically, we take in all of the things that we have from the contributor summit and throw it also to the CNCF and say like, hey, this needs to be solved. As far as I know, we get a pretty, they have a dedicated staff team. So you could basically treat it as an extra day of, they treat it as an extra day of KubeCon.
Yeah, as long as they're prepared. So second difficult question. Different projects have wildly different standards in terms of who's a maintainer and who's a certified contributor. We have a few projects in there, in fact, where every single contributor is listed as a maintainer. Are we going to require some kind of consistency for who's eligible to attend?
So great. Another great question. On that specifically, I want to point out that on the attendance side and the CFP side, graduated and incubating projects and folks like from those projects, they're the folks who are able to submit CFPs. Sandbox projects, no. So in terms of even at least content, there is already some guardrails. Folks from sandbox projects can still attend, however, but there won't be any content dedicated from their specific project, but they can attend, with the reasoning that cross-pollination of projects and collaboration is really what this Maintainer Summit is trying to be about. On the contributor side of things, we really tried to make it so that the maintainer file that Mario mentioned before, that is going to be the source of truth. But
yeah, I'm pointing out that's the file there's a problem with.
No, but I was about to say, but you bring up a good point that different, like you say, different projects have different, standards of what gets into that file. And I want to push back a bit on our possible power on being able to at all change any of that. But being able to actually maybe actively say, how do we possibly clean up a file like that for a Maintainer Summit versus telling projects to change their rules about how they consider a contributor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, my worry is about content, right? Because there are projects where, for example, corporate managers for companies that sponsor the project are on their maintainers list, people who do not actually work on code or docs at all. And a sufficient quantity of those people showing up would change the character of the event a lot. And you know, looking at this from the participation and content side, that's a serious concern that I have. You know, and just among other things, you know, honestly, people don't necessarily raise the same concerns if they're in a development, meeting, a face-to-face meeting, if their boss is there.
Yeah, right. I think so. The official wording that we've gotten from the CNCF that we had was on the eligibility side. So it's sandbox maintainers and incubating org members. They're the ones who have the least ability to do anything else other than attend. Like they're incubating org members and sandbox maintainers, it just says that they're able to attend, but it's incubating maintainers and tag leads, as well as graduated maintainers and org members plus TOCs are the ones who can attend, submit CFPs, and are eligible for program committee.
Yeah.
So content-wise, there is definitely that restriction, but like you say, because the source is possibly the main area of concern, we can definitely bring that up with the Lindsay and Ashley to see what, and specifically Bob and Jeefe, who are also involved on the CNCF side, by the way, to see what kind of cleanup we can do before next year.
Yeah. Okay, and then the third concern is, if people are getting KubeCon passes, if they are speakers, I raise a couple concerns about that. Number one is there's going to be a lot more attempts to insert inappropriate content or stealth product pitches into the event than there has been for the Kubernetes Contributor Summit, because people are looking for that KubeCon pass. So the content team is going to have to be a lot more skeptical. You follow me?
Yeah.
Because they're just going to have to filter out a lot more junk, basically, a lot more stuff that's just wholly inappropriate. And one of the other little concerns that I have about that is, with the KCS, we've always had the sort of flexible idea of what is a session, including things that are discussion sessions, where the person proposing them isn't a speaker per se.
I can already answer that concern, which is we will have small dedicated rooms for working groups, SIG meetings, et cetera, which are not considered part of the official track, but we do want people to have scheduled time that they submit for in those meeting rooms specifically, so that they have room to have those like SIG meetings and et cetera. It is the specific tracks that we outline that a talk needs to be accepted into to be considered a speaker.
Okay.
Yeah, it needs to be, as Natalie said, so it needs to be basically a talk, and there are other options where you can meet. And also, for example, all unconference sessions, even if you hand them in, will not give you a speaker.
Correct.
A speaker badge as well. And I want to add to the topic regarding the maintainer list. I talked with a couple of folks, and everyone is aware of the situation that some projects just inflate the maintainer CSV. I mean, this has brought up issues at other places as well, right? So it's not only for the maintainer list. And I know that this is currently being discussed. I would not expect a solution for London, but I think in the course of the next year, especially with the learnings that we get out of London and out of India, this will ease out over time. I completely agree that the current maintainer list is not feasible in a lot of points, but it's a point to start.
Josh, do you mind if we jump to Chris's question in the chat? Is that okay? And
yeah, awesome. I'm done. Those were the three. I think those were difficult enough.
But it's all good points, and this is why myself and Mario are definitely specifically at the Karina couldn't attend, unfortunately, but we're at this meeting now because planning has just started. So getting in front of this stuff ASAP is what we want to do. Chris, your question about is there a place to send sponsors yet? No, as we have asked for a maintainer summit channel in the CNCF Slack. So we have a centralized place to send people, and also a staff channel in the CNCF Slack so that we can start adding folks who are going to be involved and we can have a lot more conversations async. As soon as we have that and a place to send folks, we'll let you all know, definitely.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to have a quick note on the sponsor stuff that we had discussed before that I plan to bring up with the CNCF stuff. We haven't gotten to that yet, given that we're just trying to iron out deadline details so we can get communicating about this ASAP first. But on the sponsor side, we know I had myself the same concerns too, as well as several folks in this virtual room, about what sponsorship means at an event like this. No sponsored keynotes, for example, are going to be happening here. That is not the place for this kind of thing. No hugely giant, big advertisement kind of thing happening. There might be a small sign saying, I'll use my company as example. Thanks, Cisco. Bye, Chris. Thank you. Thanks, Cisco, for sponsoring this lunch. And it's like an A4 sign, maybe the end, and that's all kind of thing. So that's really the scope of what we're kind of looking for in terms on the sponsorship side, but we're putting our foot down in terms of content being allowed from sponsors, because that's absolutely not what the summit is about.
The only thing that basically, I think the only thing that has been agreed is that there will be a job, probably, it's not 100% sure yet, but there will probably be a job board where sponsored companies can basically put up job offerings to hire maintainers with the focus on them keeping to stay maintainers. So this is something that has been discussed, and there was also the discussion that a lot of the sponsoring benefits will basically go into, you get benefits at KubeCon if you sponsor Maintainer Summit.
Oof, I should talk to the sponsor people. I'll say from experience, one of the things that happens sometimes is that sponsor, all that'll end up doing is transferring money from one event to the other, which is not obviously what they want.
Yeah, which is clearly right. Which is not what they want. They want to be able to house us on an extra day, not on the co-located events, and have the cash to do so. Yeah, exactly. So I think what we want to do is, I think like some of the suggestions that I'd heard that were quite good is to cap the amount of sponsors for this event specifically, so that it's not a like unending kind of number. And to also make it very clear on exactly what your sponsorship would get. Do you sponsor a job board? Do you sponsor a lunch? Or do you want to be the 2 or 3 sponsors maybe that they would allow that would overall that want to just contribute to money needed for the space, the staff, et cetera, for the day or whatever it's going to be. We still need to get a lot more information on that. And I want to be as transparent as possible about what sponsorship means for the summit. Given that, I'm not sure about this, Mario, you can confirm, I'm not sure we have any sponsors for the Indian Maintainer Summit.
As far as I know, there's no sponsor, because they basically said that it was too late down the road to do this.
Yeah, so this would be us, piloting that approach. Yeah.
By the way, one thing I already raised with Bob, for the record, because my other concern. So I had all these conversations about sponsorship with Dan Kahn back in the day for the Kubernetes Contributor Summit. And one of the things that they're sticking by, at least for now, is that attendance will not be a sponsorship benefit. As in the sponsors do not get any extra slots to send people who would not otherwise qualify. Right.
For example, they don't have a booth where they need to send staff or whatever. Yeah, right.
That was a whole discussion. That was in fact the thing that the item that I raised earlier this year when they were talking again about sponsorship for the KCS. I was like, okay, so you can explain to sponsors that they can sponsor but they can't attend. And they're like, oh, let me get back to you on that. Which is why I waited for a year.
Yeah, so the question is definitely like on the sponsor side, right? Okay, if I sponsor this thing, what do I get out of it? Like what access, for lack of a better term, is there? And I do think that the job board is part of that answer where, okay, you get to have access to possible attendees through advertisement of jobs and things that you want folks to contact you about, but you can't be there to do the cold outreach yourself. Like it actually, it's basically signage and job ads as opposed to like physical people being there to talk to maintainers, because maintainers are there to work together and work on their projects. Like that's the point of that event. So yeah, I think we are. What might end up happening, and this was a suggestion that I heard from a CNCF staff member. This was a while back. Was that there might be a CNCF staff member at the job board, like their role is to be there to answer certain questions, that maybe they have information that they've been given from sponsors where they can answer questions for people, but it's not a sponsor there answering it. It is like a CNCF staff member, for example, so that it's like neutral, for lack of a better term. Or they may have like information if people do want, like, oh, there's this job, but like, is there, or AWS have this job here, but is there more information outside of like the website that you can give me or point me to or whatever, possibly. And I think a lot of that is going to just be, well, you're here at KubeCon, come and see our booth the next couple of days, likely. That might be the answer too, but yeah, it's going to be this idea of access and what do we want access to look like for sponsors. The job board is part of that.
Yeah. Basically, as far as I understood, and it was made clear, the only way to get access to the Maintainer Summit is if you fulfill the eligibility table that is posted in I put the link into the document in the chat. That's for India, but for Europe, it will basically stay the same.
Yeah, pretty much. More questions, please ask.
If there are no more questions, I will basically raise the topic again, and I will probably will have this discussion offline. So I will put it into the Slack channel, how we would stuff from a Kubernetes side, the Kubernetes track, because it probably will need, the people probably will need to start before KubeCon NA is happening, or they need at least to be defined. So this is a little bit bad from a timing perspective, but we are a little bit under pressure there.
So what that means is specifically who we would need is the people that we want to be basically the program committee for the Kubernetes track for Maintainer Summit. Like that's the group of people that we need to define ASAP. And part of the ask is folks in this room, as an FYI, our CNCF staff do have and will plan to kind of send out asks for this. I believe that was what was talked about yesterday, Mario, that like the submission of like, are you interested in being on the program committee, yes or no, kind of form that usually goes out for KubeCon. A similar thing is going to go out for the Maintainer Summit.
But not for the Kubernetes track. The Kubernetes track stays, they define it. Yeah, so that's the difference. So they will send out those calls for the different tracks, but not for the Kubernetes track. The Kubernetes track is self-defined.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me recommend talking to Cody at CNCF events about because the people who review the KubeCon main track submissions is kind of a rotating group. And ask Cody for who in his pool he feels are really good at discerning inappropriate submissions. Because like I can think of a few people out of the Kubernetes community, but will want other project contributors doing the other track. And
yes,
Cody would know better than me who he could recommend, because you want to have at least one, maybe two people selecting those who is looking very skeptically at the submissions, right? So that we don't end up with a bait and switch.
Yeah. So it will be, it's going to be, so firstly, interestingly, I had already asked a similar question to Bob, and he just said, yeah, hilariously, two of you are already program chairs, so you need to not be involved on the on the actual program committee itself, given that us as program chairs will have the final say on the content here. We will be reviewing everything, right? So there's that already, which is great, and good on Karina having a lot more oversight on the other project end, so the three of us can make like good calls for what is being recommended up to us from all the different program committees, which is great. But I think on top of asking Cody, which is great, if there is anyone that is actually super interested in this room in doing program committee for the Maintainer Summit, like letting us know ASAP, or if you're watching the recording out there, letting us know, myself and Mario and Karina Angel know ASAP, so that we can kind of put that list together. Because I wouldn't mind going to Cody with a small list already. And so all that is going to be is, okay, this actually looks good, and here's the addition of 2 or 3 more people, and then we send that out as a possible, call of interest and go from there. Because I don't want to assume that maybe we get 3 or 4 folks who are suggested, and that they're all available and all willing as well. So we probably will need like a few people putting their hand up, but also a few recommendations.
And for the Kubernetes track, I basically would discuss it in Slack, and then bring it up in the next ContribEx meeting, and then that's 1 week before KubeCon. So we're basically that we already would have the folks.
Yeah. I think what could be good, so we can bring it up in a couple of our different SIGs, that's a possibility, but even also in the Summit staff channel, and be very open about us having a bit more of a discerning lens on exactly who that program committee is. It's not a content team, it's a program committee, so it does need to be folks who've done probably this before, just so that level of scrutiny that you mentioned, Josh, can be applied.
All right. Any other questions?
I want to raise quickly the idea, like the information around the unconference that we quickly spoke about in the planning meeting that we had yesterday. This is a 1-day event, and as you all know, or maybe know, at KCSs in the past, we usually have the unconference sessions that happen from the afternoon onwards. But given the amount of content and / projects that are going to be involved, and the fact that there's still going to be talks happening as well as the unconference sessions, it was raised as a possibility that maybe we have these rooms for unconferences actually starting from the start of the day after the main program bits in terms of like welcoming and etc. has happened, that we actually have unconference starting a little earlier to fit all the possible topics and content that's going to come in. And I guess I just wanted to hear what folks thought about that, given just the restriction of we still have a day for our event, but we have a lot more people and a lot more possible content to cover. Because I think you had mentioned yesterday, Mario, that already there's a bunch of topics for unconference for KCSNA.
Yeah, so basically we already have, and I don't have the link open, give me a second. I think we have already 6 or 7 unconference sessions that are proposed. And Josh, you already made a comment to some of them that it would be beneficial if some CNCF stuff is there. So there are some unconference sessions that are cross-community in the future as well, which is good, right? So that's basically the idea also, that we have cross-project unconference sessions. schedule unconference unconference issue. So currently we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 unconference sessions submitted, which is a lot. Yeah, and the idea was, as Natalie said, have already like the morning filled, so that we have more possible unconference slots throughout the day, and people can build their schedule the way they want it. Any other question, remarks? If not, thank you so much, Natalie, for joining. You're welcome to stick around. And
I appreciate it. I will jump off a little early as I have another meeting at the hour and I'm going to feed my cats and have a bio break.
All right.
So thanks, everyone. Again, feel free to reach out either to me and Mario ourselves, or we eventually will socialize when the Slack channels are created for more public discourse and things, and we'll let you know where you can come and ask also more general questions for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye, Natalie. All right. Going back to our normal topics. Mentoring. Is there anything we want to mention on mentoring?
No, mostly Ed wants to get started on group cohorts. The next step is to actually reach out to individual SIG leads and see who's interested. I'm not sure how much response we'll get 2.5 weeks from KubeCon. This may actually be, I should check with Ed whether or not he's going to be in Salt Lake City, because this might actually be a great thing to track people down in person at the meet and greet and the KCS. And see who's interested in doing a mentoring cohort for, say, beginning of next year.
Yeah, I think KubeCon would be or KCS would be a good place to also ping people. I must say, I looked at the SIG callout sheet and it's pretty empty currently. So
yeah,
I think we're underwater.
Yeah, we're in the period where people are getting multiple messages per day about KubeCon. Ah, damn it. Oh wait, actually hasn't gone out yet. Is there a blurb somewhere I can use about SIG callouts? We haven't sent out LWKD yet. I forgot about that.
There was a message to leads. I can pull it up and send it to you. There was a mail that was sent out. I can link it to you in the from the Comstock that we have. Let me write this down because otherwise I will forget.
One other thing I'd like to do for next week is write up a paragraph about Maintainer Summit for London, because if we're going to be recruiting program chairs before this KubeCon, I want to actually sort of brief people about it.
Yeah, this would be a good idea, and I think LWKD is a good place to put it in. And we probably should also eventually send it out to SIG leads or to the mailing list itself.
Okay.
All right. Any questions regarding mentoring? If not, I can quickly go through the comms update. We are spinning up a Blue Sky account for Kate's contributors and Kubernetes IO as more and more people are moving towards Blue Sky, which is great. And blogs are ongoing. There have been a last-minute blog post that for the Kubernetes upstream training in Japan that is coming soon.
We have Srirem and Aravind here from comms. If you wanted to actually have somebody do a readout.
Yeah, hey folks.
So, Sarah, do you have anything else that I or missed from the comms meeting?
Sorry, let me pull up the agenda. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add from my side.
I do have
sorry,
one
Aravind.
point.
Yes.
The last ContribEx meeting that happened on Friday was not recorded because we were just 3 members. But one point that came up was regarding the Blue Sky account of Kubernetes. Someone had taken the name of Kubernetes IO on Blue Sky, and they had sent out a note that if you want this account, please reach out to me at this handle. And I think Keslin sent him a message saying we are on Blue Sky now officially and we would need this account. I'm not sure if he has replied back since last week, but that was a thing we did last week. So just wanted to put that out.
Okay. Thank you for the update. All right. Anything else on comms? If not, does anyone have an update regarding contributor documentation? Moderation and media.
One thing people should be aware of is, per sort of international news, there's now a significant chance that sometime that within like a 3-year window, the .io top-level domain will cease to exist. And so we've begun doing some planning on the infra side and otherwise for the project. The issue is not primarily things like websites, which are actually relatively quick to move, but our API. Because if we had to change the URI for API elements, that would definitely take years. So just so people are aware of that, at some point we'll convene a working group if it looks like it, if there's better confirmation that the TLD is actually going away. That's it.
Yeah, I think. Thanks, Josh. And I think that Bob said it nicely. It's a 2025 problem.
Yeah. It ended up all over social media because initially, like, I was aware of this problem a couple of months ago, and I raised it, and Bob and Jiffy were like, "Can we put off even thinking about this until January?" And I said, "Absolutely, yes." When ICANN retires at TLD, they give people like 3 years of warning. But then it was all over social media, and so people had to discuss it.
I think it's even 5 years. I read somewhere 5 years.
Yeah. Well, and there is always the chance that .io is a different situation in terms of the level of usage than the previous examples are. And so it might not go away. I will say that if it's not going away, then ICANN needs to take it away from the current technical management and assign it to somebody else, because there's additional issues with the contractor that is managing the TLD right now. But and you know, so in other words, there's been discussion about this. We're not doing anything about it until next year.
Yeah.
So if anybody sends you a message about it, say, yes, we've already discussed this.
And there's an issue. There's actually a tracking issue.
Mhm.
I think it's either in community or infra, where the infra folks already started talking about this. So steering is also involved in form of I think Ben is in the discussion, and there's a tracking issue. So basically, we can send people to this issue. I can look it up and put it into the docs as well, into the meeting notes as well. Because there was an extended discussion in SIG Infra already. All right. Anything regarding GitHub management? And we only have 5 minutes left.
I do have a question if there's any GitHub managers on. What if a GitHub user has deleted their account and we're trying to sync a development branch with the main branch? I'm going to put this on the Slack channel as well, but I just wanted to give a heads up to any GitHub managers on the account.
There's currently no one in this call.
Okay, I'll put it on the Slack channel.
Thanks, Ray. Elections. I don't know if there is anything. I think everything is done, right, for the 2024 elections.
Yeah, we had the election retro last week. Went over everything. Try to link the retro doc for the notes. There we are. From a sub-project perspective, one of the main things I'm going to try to take on next year for elections. I mean, first there's the sort of ongoing work on Electo. But the second thing is one of the things that we've said that we needed every election and have not done is to have some sort of meet the candidate something. And so I'm going to push to have the election sub-project take that on rather than leave it to the election officers, because it's clear that the officers will never have the time to do this. So, oh, somebody else already pasted it in. Okay. Yeah. And that way we can recruit, additional people from contributor comms to actually run the meet the candidates, etc.
Yep. I think this would be great, because basically the only information is find the information by yourself, more or less.
Yeah, well,
I mean, you have
candidates, candidates put statements, up and that sort of thing, but I'm pretty sure that people don't read those.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure as well.
Yeah. So, and I feel like I've been able to predict election winners based on the breadth of name recognition, which is not the only criteria we should be electing people on. So I think we can improve that.
Yeah, I think so as well.
So,
because people they a lot of folks write good stuff in those
Yeah.
topics, and you should read it.
Yeah. So probably something, yeah. I mean, I would say probably something on video, to have sort of maximum difference from the printed candidate statements. But we could also consider the Kubernetes blog, or if we have sufficient contributors, we could do both.
I mean, potentially also a nice thing would be we have a couple of weeks where the election is ongoing, and before the election even starts, is like each candidate gets a short topic in the LWKD, so that every candidate was in one issue of the LWKD, for example.
Well, but I mean, like last time we had like 10 candidates, something like that.
Yeah,
That's
it would
10
be 10
weeks.
weeks.
I don't think we quite do that.
Yeah.
I think Kubernetes blog would be better, because Kubernetes blog, we could publish like, say, 2 or 3 blog posts, each of which had multiple candidates in it.
Yeah.
So
I will write down
anyway,
this.
it's something we won't get around to, like something we won't even try to organize until June of next year. But that was my main idea I took away from the retro. Everything else was just sort of the usual set of issues. And the need for more Python geeks to actually help me work on Electo. But
all right, it is now the full hour. So we are at the end of our time. Thanks everyone for joining, especially for joining to get information about how Maintainer Summit will happen, and also for, of course, all of the other input. The next meeting will be next week, which is the APEC meeting. And in 2 weeks' time, we have the America time zone friendly meeting again. Thanks, everyone. Have a beautiful rest of the week, and see you in any other meeting. Goodbye, YouTube.